the first step. Reach out for tomorrow. We live so
Time for an unpleasant blind guy, conservative Byte. Recently, a lawsuit has been filed to unbind electors from having to follow the rules set forth in 29 states. It's all part of the latest effort on behalf of the progressive left to abolish the Electoral College. The Electoral College, as they see it, is unfair because it goes against the principle of one person and one vote. It's also seen as outdated by the left, which so many things are that don't advantage them directly. They say the Electoral College has no relevance in the year 2016. Well, guys, truth is not always pleasant, and it's time for some truth from the unpleasant blind guy. According to the National Archives and Records Administration, the Founding Fathers established the Electoral College in the Constitution as a compromise between electing the president by a vote in Congress and electing one by a vote of qualified citizens. That definition, my progressive friends, comes from part of the Obama administration, by the way. But really, how is that system, set up by a bunch of old white guys that had slaves and powdered wigs and quill pens, relevant in the year 2016? The progressive left says things have changed, moved on. The popular vote can be almost instantly counted now compared to back in those days. Well, they're right, some things have changed. But some things haven't changed. What hasn't changed is the fact that far too many Americans pay almost zero attention to the operation of their own government until it's time to start watching campaign commercials during their favorite programs. Whether they're working, recreating, or they just plain don't care, not a lot of attention is paid, to the point where far too many Americans can tell you who's up on the latest talent show or quote sports stats, but don't even know the name of the Vice President of the United States. Whether the progressive left wants to admit it or not, that's one thing that hasn't changed. Now, we all know the left loves change, so what has changed? What has changed is that the focus of manufacturing has moved out of the larger cities into smaller cities, suburbs, and even rural areas, while almost all food production and pretty much all raw material production has remained in the rural areas. This is where the unpleasant truth comes in. Fact is, guys, the cities need the suburbs and rural areas far more in the year 2016 than the suburban and rural areas need the big cities. Want a demonstration? Cities cannot grow enough food within their boundaries to feed their own people. They can't gather enough raw materials within their own boundaries to create manufactured goods for their own people. Heck, the cities still need the suburban and rural areas just for things like water, power, and food. Our most populous cities, which were one time centers of production, have now become centers of consumption. While smaller cities, the suburbs, and rural areas have actually become the producers in 21st century America. In short, guys, if you're living in a city, you need those uncool country people to eat. And how does this apply to the relevancy of the Electoral College? It's very simple. The Electoral College system gives slightly more power to the smaller and less populated areas in the United States of America than to the more populous areas. Now, if you get rid of the Electoral College, you'll disenfranchise the people in those less populous areas. Well, now you may be living in a city and going, well, who cares? Well, you should care, because they mine and refine the things that create your manufactured goods, and they feed you. In other words, they produce, you consume.
Yeah, David, you live in a city.
Yeah, I do. Not by choice, though. And I'm also realist enough to know that what I'm saying is right. In the mechanized high communication age of the 21st century, almost anyone can do anything, anywhere. The only thing that large, stationary cities are now needed for is seaports. They can't be moved. Everything else can. So yes, the progressive left is quite right. Some things have changed since the 18th century. And if the Electoral College gives a slight advantage to our less populated areas, that's actually a good thing. Because those of us in the cities stay flush with products we can use and have lots of tasty food in our stomachs. This has been an Unpleasant Blind Guy Conservative Fight.